I see we're all pouring in here. I see the list growing.
Good morning. Anyone out there who can hear me?
Hello.
Hi, Pierce.
Morning.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. It's Kelsey from the PSC Central Office. Good morning. I see many of you logged in, which is great. And I've got a minute after 10 on my clock here, so I'm thinking I'll get us started right away. So just a couple quick things before we get started. I'm logged in this morning as Erin Picard under her profile. So if you would like to get a hold of me on the chat feature of the WebEx, just message Erin. You're welcome to ask questions as we go. If you're not asking a question and you're in a loud environment, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself, that would be much appreciated. If I hear background noise and I can't get a hold of you, I may have to mute you, so apologies if that's the case. So just a quick reminder, we only have 45 minutes this morning, and so I've got a couple of just quick update items that both Pierce and I wanted to share with you, but other than that, the remainder of our time is just open and can be basically just driven by your questions. So I'm recording this and I will send it out after the fact. If we could try to prioritize questions related to Telus things specifically or general panel stuff, that would be great. If you have questions regarding the pilot for any of the other EMRs specifically, I am more than happy to connect with you offline. Give me a call, send me an email, and I will make sure you have the information you need. Okay, so without any further ado, we'll get started. Thanks, Pierce. I heard you. So we've got Pierce Penn with us today from Telus Health. So thanks for your time, Pierce. I know this is really appreciated. Just before we get started, Pierce and I just wanted to touch on really mainly one thing, and that was around. Some of you may have seen, and thank you to the VCH team who really alerted us of this. Recently, when we updated the action plan template, the first 3 questions changed, and that was definitely a bit of a miscommunication on our part, so apologies if we caused confusion. They changed from asking for a yes-no status to an actual score, which in the spirit of trying to really understand the value of doing this work and seeing if, in fact, through the process of doing the work that physicians do actually see a change in their panel size, we are asking that we would receive a pre and post score as an indication of that. So you'll see that on the new action plan, questions 1 through 3 are actually looking for a score. And what we hadn't actually worked out yet before we issued the new action plan was the way of going about getting that information through MedAccess and Wolf. So Pierce thankfully was able to get that documentation. We're lucky that most of that is available, at least in MedAccess, I believe, through the old ODR. I'll let Pierce show us that in detail, but we sent out last week some documentation, and so I'm hoping most of you had a chance to look at that. Pierce is going to actually show us, just do a little show of what that actually looks like in both MedAccess and Wolf. But before we get started, I thought I would just open it up. Are there any questions about that, the action plan form, those questions 1 through 3, why we're asking for the scores, or also as it relates to finding the information in the EMR? Okay. Well, then maybe we'll just hand it over to Pierce to show us, and then that might spur some more questions. If not, great. I've actually seen it, and it's quite simple, so hopefully it's not a lot of extra time.
Sure.
Thanks,
yeah. Thanks,
for joining us.
I tacked on 3 other points here, just questions that I've received throughout the week, so I thought it would be good just to share with the group in case those questions came up with others. But first, I'll just start with these panel cleanup indicators. So Kelsey would have sent these out, and let me just pull them up for you. So we created one for the Wolf EMR, and there's another one for the mid-access. And what it really is, it's just a 4-page document that just walks you through the individual steps of how you would get this information in the reporting tool in each EMR. Now, while this document does show all those steps, the good news is that 2 of 3 of these indicators can be gathered from the dashboard itself. There really is only one that you need to run a report for to get. So maybe I'll just touch on that one specific one. And that's the first of the 3. That's looking for patients whose demographics are in the EMR. So would there be interest, Kelsey, for me just to do a demonstration on how to run that?
I think so. I'd like to.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure. Okay, so let me pull up my demo environment here. And this we'll start with mid-access, then we'll show it in Wolf. So once we're in the EMR, again, maybe I'll just point out the 2nd and 3rd reports when we're in the outcomes dashboard. Okay, so we're looking at that information on the primary dashboard. Those are the first of our 3. The active patients covers those. So the final 2 are looking for just how many active patients does your physician have, really how many patients are attached to them as a primary physician, and how many of those, the second one is how many of those active patients have been seen in the last 3 years. Okay, so let me just expand this for us. Okay, and what we'll see here is all these different segments. So what we're looking at in this entire pie is all of this physician's active patients. So really, I mean, it doesn't tabulate it for you, but if you were to just look at these sections of the pie and count them up, 4, 2, et cetera, that's going to give you your total number of the physician's active patients. If you didn't want to go into reports and do a manual search. The second one is of those who have been seen in the last 3 years, we have that right here. So last seen in less than 3 years, okay, and that's your number. So those are the 2 easy ones, and glad that those are on the dashboard for us to grab. But if we were going to run that report for which of my active patients have demographic information, let me show you how to do that. Okay, so instead of hitting the outcomes dashboard, we want to head to reports. Okay, so this little button right here. This is going to open the practice management tool where you can run a number of searches. And what we actually want to look for here is a template that's already in place. So for some of you who may remember the ODR initiative, there should still be some in here. And there's ODR M2 patient contact information. Okay, and if I click that, it's actually just going to load it for me. The only difference is this report is also looking for have we had a visit encounter in the last 3 years. So what you'll have to do here is just remove that by clicking the red X. And what you're left with is we're looking for that doctor's active patients and do they have an address, postal code, a phone number. Okay, and what you can do is just click the print button right here, and it's going to generate a report for you. We're looking at this top number. So it's comparing all of the doctor's active patients with how many have contact information. So 12 is the number that you would take there. And again, because I'm in my demo environment, we've got a small population, but that's how we would go about getting that number. Any questions about those pieces so far?
sorry, did you say 12 out of 43 are missing some sort of demographics? Is that what it was? Sorry?
Yeah, so what we're looking at, it's 12 patients of the doctor's entire patient population, which is, in my example here, 43. I mean, all of you will see larger numbers. 12 of them have the demographic information. So that's the number that that report is looking for. How many of the doctor's patients have?
How many don't have it. Okay, so then in order,
that's right.
Okay, in order to generate a list of those that don't have it, we have to do a different search, correct?
Yes, so that's right. For the purpose of the report that you need to gather a pre and post, this is going to get you the number that you need right here. But if you needed to take it a step further, you can see here it's showing set. So it says, yes, they do have an address listed there, they do have a postal code, and they do have a phone number. If you needed to take that one step further, you could, of course, change that to saying not set. You know, they don't have an address, they don't have, okay? And if a physician wanted to see those patients, you can actually access a patient list. So I'd want to click searching and click the binocular. And that just generates your list of patients that don't have any of that. So again, that's an additional piece, but the part that we're required just for the reports on the assessment tool, leave that as set.
Yeah, the thing is with us though, when we want to actually clean it up, we actually have to do this search to find those patients. So it would be easier if the question was how many patients don't have or are missing demographic information, because that is what we want to clean up, right? So for this, for the purposes of this work, we have to find one thing, and then actually we have to find the actual opposite afterwards in order to actually do our work, right? That's the thing. So for us, it's really important to know these searches.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good feedback. Was that Joe from BCH?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's good feedback, Joe. Thank you. I need to take that back and think about it a little bit more. That's good feedback. Thank you. I'm wondering, Pierce, too, just for the purpose of the documentation, if we might add that extra step on how to generate the list in.
Okay.
Would that be helpful, guys, to have that in the document, just to see how you can generate the list to find the ones that don't?
Yes, you know what, definitely.
Yes, yes, that would be awesome.
Yes, please.
Yes,
okay.
Please.
Okay. And then what I'll just do while I'm here, I just want to point out, I'm going to click on example patient. And for those of you, if you haven't been here before, in a patient chart, far left over, the demographics tab, this is where all that's stored. So on a patient level, this is where we would put in our address, like this phone number, et cetera. This is also where the primary physician is listed, and also the patient status, which is at play. So let me hop over into the Wolf environment, and I'll give you an example of that as well. Okay, so here we are in the Wolf EMR. What we want to head, yeah, absolutely.
Very sorry, this is Shafali. Sorry to interrupt, but I do have a question about the just the previous screen that you had up.
Sure.
Just wondering, when you actually generate that report of all those patients that don't have the demographics in terms of postal code, address, et cetera, is it going to count the person 3 times if they don't have all 3 things, or is it going to count them once in that grouping?
It's counting them once there. Yeah, that's a great question.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so there's no worry to duplicate numbers if they don't have it, yeah.
Thanks, Pierce. Sorry.
No problem. So here we are in the Wolf EMR. If we want to run a report, we'll go to our practice search section. Okay, and it looks a bit different, but the functionality is quite similar from what we just looked at. That left-hand side is the criteria building that we're looking for, and then we can generate a list or a report. So because we're just looking for demographics here, we're looking for patients that have contact information. We want to hit demographics. Okay, there's a number of options that open to us. We want to select for Wolf, we'll only be looking for postal code. If they have a postal code, that's what we consider as having that data in place. I'm going to click on that, and you'll see that pulls in a new section here. So what I would do here is say postal code has any words, okay? And this is all listed for you in the document that we've sent out. Postal code has any word, so as long as anything is put in that place, we would consider them having that postal code. And then the final piece, of course, is just making sure we're selecting the primary physician. So select primary MD. And here's where we would select the doctor that you're doing this work with. Okay, and for my example, I will select Dante here. So that's the actual search that we're running. We're looking for patients, active patients who are not deceased that have any postal code documented for this physician as the primary MD, okay?
And Pierre,
if
the clinic is practicing where they're not really consistently assigning physicians, can you just do the physician any words search?
This is used to find a physician. It's like, so you see, if I start with PA and say any words, then it'll select a matching physician. So it doesn't work, it's not like a text-based search. This piece here just helps you find what's in this list. Yeah. You see how it kind of limits it to these two physicians? And if I leave this blank, I'm going to be able to see.
So if we wanted to search the whole practice, we just wouldn't add that box at all?
Yeah, so you can leave the all words, but what you can do is there's a little plus icon here, and you can add as well. So I could, go through and add. But I would maybe defer to Kelsey's judgment on this one for the sake of gathering numbers. I don't know if that would fit the criteria of what we're looking for. Because then we're technically looking for.
Good point.
We're looking for,
Yeah, sorry, who is asking the question?
Audrey.
Audrey, hi Audrey. So, okay, so guys, in the case where, ideally, perfect, best case scenario, we can distinguish the actual physician and then their results based on that. If there are issues, so if, I think I heard you sort of allude to the fact that they're not necessarily assigning a primary provider. Is that right in the clinic?
Yeah, so it's just their concern is that they're operating a shared practice and they kind of haven't really come to a collective agreement on how they want to assign, so they haven't been doing it.
Okay. So in that case, our ask is that you would defer or default back to the way that the action plan was reading before, which is just subjective and just sort of anecdotal notation of yes, you're doing it or no, you're not, which is based on your discretion and what the physician is communicating and showing you. And that's, I think, the best you can do because there's really not an objective way to validate that right now for them. So in that case, I would just say if you guys could answer the question with a yes or no, that would be our best approach.
So thanks for that, Kelsey. What I'll show next is just how you can get that number. So in the top here, there is a result button, so you can generate a patient list. And we've all seen this before because it's what gets generated when we click on a segment of the pie from the dashboard in Wolf. So it gives us our patient list, and at the bottom, it's going to tell you how many patients are in that search, so 582. And just to build off of the last question we had in Net Access, how would we find patients that don't have that information? If you need to take that a step further with your work, you would just need to change this piece under postal code. And I would change this to is exactly, okay, and that would, and leave nothing here. Okay, but I'll go through and I can update that document for you all so you have a guide on how to do that.
Hi, Pierce. It's Candace from VCH. I'm wondering I'm wondering if you could do that exact same search, but for a phone number.
So good question.
Because a lot of data cleanup in the clinics is really ensuring that we have a phone number for each patient.
Yeah, that's a good question. Unfortunately, we don't have that capability. Right now, the only piece we can search for in Practice Search is postal code.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, I do understand that, that's a piece that a lot of clinics want, because now that we're all using cell phone numbers, more so than landlines, that's the number that people stick with. So probably something we're going to move towards, but not in time for our project. So, so that's how we would get those numbers in both the EMRs. If it's okay with everyone else, unless there's some pressing questions, I did want to talk about patient status in WOLF as well, because I think that it's just something I want us all to be aware of. So in WOLF, when we're talking about active patients, it really just means any patient that isn't marked as inactive. On the MedAccess EMR, what you will have is that there's an actual status called active, and that's what we're looking for in MedAccess, so that makes it quite simple. But in the WOLF EMR, they have the ability to create custom statuses. So you may arrive at a clinic and see that they've got some different statuses at play. It's just important to know what that inactive status means. So I'll just take a moment and show you that. Okay. So first, before I do that, I'm going to open up Workdesk, and I'm just going to open up to a test patient I have here. Okay. So in WOLF, the demographics is in patient maintenance. So when you're on a patient chart, you can click F9 to access it. And again, this is in the document that we sent out. I click F9, and it's going to pull up our patient maintenance. Here's where all that information is stored. So under name, address, phone, that's where we've got all that listed for the patient. Okay, as well, in the top middle section, this is where that patient's primary physician is listed. And when we're talking about status, it's in a different tab here. So 2 over on the top, patient status. So this is probably what you're going to see a lot of when you go to this on patient chart. It's actually no status at all, because a lot of clinics may not have a status applied to their patient. That makes them an active patient. Okay, they can come here and they can apply status by clicking New, and right here you have a number of different options. Okay. And again, as I mentioned before, this may vary if a clinic has set up some of their own custom statuses. Okay, and in most cases, left practice is going to be your inactive status. What I want to show you is if your physician or the person you're working it with isn't familiar with how they've set up their EMR, in most cases they're going to know. But in the event that they don't, I just want to show you the steps on how you can have that conversation. So let me close down my patient chart here. And when we're in the Workdesk window, what we want to do is select Reference, Configuration, as I'm talking through this, I'll make sure to add this to the WOLF document as well. Chances are you won't have to go through this step, but it may be valuable just to have on hand. And once we're in that configuration window, we want to click on View. And then there is Patient Data Codes and Patient Status. So this is really where we manage all those statuses in the WOLF EMR. And you can see there's an inactive button here. So when a patient, is marked as deceased or left practice, you can see that they can set up which status is termed inactive, okay? So you can see office patient is an active patient, whereas the status left practice is inactive. So I just want to make sure we're all familiar on what that's pulling from. Again, you most likely won't have to come to this space because from my experience, most clinics know how their statuses are set up. But just want to make sure you're armed with that information in case you have to. Is there any questions about that piece? I know that one came up once or twice in the last couple of weeks, so I just want to share it with the group.
There be more than one inactive status in an instance?
There can. Yeah, absolutely.
It's Candace again, Pierce. I just wanted to say thank you for that. I've been working with a number of clinics on data cleanup for quite some time, and when we do all these different searches for CDM and complex care and all that, inactive patients were showing up on the list all over the place, and we thought it was a glitch. We'd been talking to the help desk and all of these things, and recently one of our team members let us know that it's this tick box that says make this one inactive that would have solved the whole thing. And so I'm so pleased to see such an easy fix rather than going into each patient we thought we had to change. So this is such a great little tick box. It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's a powerful feature, and it's in the configuration window, right? So this is where we set up how that clinic's operating. And so, yeah, you're right. There's no need to do manual changes, so that's good news. But it's just good to know because I know that some clinics do have multiple inactive statuses if they've taken that extra step to set it up. And when we're talking about the PSP dashboard for our initiative, again, what we're looking there, and here I am on the main window, I'll head to report and click on outcomes dashboard. All of our tiles, all of our pies, we're looking at patients that are not inactive, right? So that's really what we're calling active patients, right? We're looking at any status, really, that is not set as inactive or deceased.
Hi, Pierce. It's Brian speaking. This came up for me this week as well, so thank you so much for going through that and helping us out. I just wanted to clarify something. You said if they don't have a status assigned, it's inactive? Is that correct?
No. If they don't have a status assigned, it's considered an active patient.
Active, okay.
Yes, yeah. So they have to go through a deliberate step to mark a chart as inactive. I see a lot of clinics just not using a status when it's considered an active regular patient. So we didn't build the queries to exclude those.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Now, I had two other quick things that I want to just touch on, but I just want to make sure that I'm catching questions from the group. So were there any pressing questions that anyone had? Or non-pressing?
We're clear on the chat line here. So
okay, all right. Okay. So in that case, maybe I will just take a moment to talk about these final two pieces. One other piece I want to mention is just about sharing. Let me go back to my Wolf environment. And I just want to point out sharing is on a dashboard level. So for your doctors out there who are going to be working on all three dashboards, when they want to share for all or everything in the project, they just need to go through that sharing process on each dashboard. Right, so this first one here, the physician has not shared yet. And again, sharing will make sure that the statistics go to the PSP viewer dashboard so that you can log in and see it. Scroll to the bottom and enable sharing. I'm going to select from earliest. And how I know that I'm sharing is that this turns gray. I've already done the work. I've marked it as sharing statistics. I don't need to come back. But you will see on the other dashboards, the dashboards 2 and 3, right, I haven't done that step here either. So just a point for those of you who are connecting with your doctors and they're opting to share, just make sure that they go through that process on all three, because I know that it can easily be missed. You know, once you do the first step, it may be easy to think that all three are sharing. So,
hi, it's Joe. I have a question about that. Thanks for clarifying that, because I asked you that on email because my doctors were not all panels were shared.
Right.
I asked a different question about whether or not they can see what we can see. Are they able to drop down to any doctor and look at their data the way we are able to, or are they seeing just an aggregate of everybody's? Like, are they seeing all, or are they actually able to drop down to any doctor and see it the way we can see it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks for that. For physicians, because the outcomes dashboard, or let's call it the physician dashboard because it's the one that's actually in their EMR, they're able to see their own data, their own statistics, and they're able to see that as any other coworker in their EMR. So the outcomes dashboard is it's an EMR feature, so it's part of the entire clinic. And you can see when I click the drop down, these are all the co-workers or co-physicians at my clinic. I don't have the ability to look at another physician who's sharing in a different EMR, but I am able to see, you know, the data within my EMR. Okay, and we designed this in line with practice search, so that tool I just showed you on how to run searches on your practice. So any physician in an EMR can run those searches on their own or their coworkers. That's how the administrative features work. And so it's the same on the dashboard. But it will default to your own information. So you can see I logged in as this physician, Dr. Pagan, so it automatically shows me that physician's data. For you, so the second piece is on the actual PSP viewer dashboard, and that's the tool that, you know, all the RSTs have logins for. You have the ability to see any physician that is sharing their statistics. The only difference for you is that you don't have the ability to drill down to a patient list, you know, whereas a doctor can say, well, let's take a look at my heart disease patients. We can click on that, and it's going to generate a patient list, and we can go ahead and access the chart and review it. From the viewer, you only have the ability to see statistics, no patient data, no access to patient charts.
Thank you, that was helpful.
Yeah, no problem. The last thing I just wanted to note was actually, and I don't know if Joe Stiles is on the line, but she noticed this with one of her clinics where she had done some panel cleanup work with her physician one day and had planned to come back the next. And she wasn't seeing the changes on the dashboard immediately. Now, anytime that you do work or panel cleanup, the dashboard will display that data the next day because the way that it works is it runs an update overnight to display that. And it looked like on hers, it was delayed a little bit, which we're looking into, but we haven't seen it elsewhere. I just wanted to put the note out there in case any of you have done some work and are planning to return the next day. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy just to quality check. I don't expect it to be an issue at all, but just wanted to be clear and transparent with everyone in case you've seen that. But we did find that it showed up. It was just a little bit later in the day.
Thanks, Chris.
I have a question. It's Joe. With respect to patients, question number 2, they have a provider and they're assigned a status. How do we do the search for I know that it's clearly from Telus or from Wolf, everybody, it's all default, anything without a status is defaults to active or whatever, if I understood correctly. But in MedAccess, you know, a status is indicated. So how do we do a search for patients that are missing a status? Like that, where there's nothing, no status is indicated, so that we can do that cleanup. Again, the search is asking for one thing, but we're actually, to do the cleanup, we need the other list. So are you able to provide us with a walkthrough, well, I guess the walkthrough on the video, but also an instruction as to how to do that?
Yeah, so good question as well. In MedAccess, you're not able to leave status blank. It's a mandatory field. So I'll give you an example here. If I was to have a new patient come in and I'd like to create a new patient, you know, maybe I'll just test, you know, maybe I'll just leave it at that. If I leave, the default is active, but you can actually see I can't select no status. It doesn't allow you to leave a blank status.
That's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, so when you're running a report in MedAccess, again, that's just going to show you active status, and maybe I'll show you from the dashboard because that's going to be easiest. Here I am in the physician EMR. I'll go to the primary one, and again, our active status. And I'm going to expand that so we can see it a little bit better. So let's say we're looking at actives. Again, this is looking at your patients who have been seen in the last 3 years. That was one of the reports. Okay, and there's your status there. So if they needed to change it, they could. But for the purposes of the report on the assessment tool, this will achieve that for you. Yeah. And if you actually just wanted to find all your active, right, without the last, those patients that have been seen in the last 3 years, you can actually just click that red X and rerun your search. That gives you your number as well. So yeah, in MedAccess it's a little bit easier. No worry about there not being a status. Yeah. And I will also mention in Wolf, it's not a bad thing to not have a status. You know, if we have patients out there that we haven't actually created a status for them, that's okay, because you will find a lot of physicians will have statuses for, you know, left practice or things like that.
Hi, Pierce. It's Brian from BCH again. I have just one more status question for you.
Sure.
It's when you change a status in Wolf from active and create it as an inactive, will it retroactively apply that status to all the patients? Or is it just...
That is a great question. I believe what we change here changes what is applied.
Okay.
So I'll show you here under, again, view, patient data codes, patient status. So these are statuses, of course, which are now applied to a number of our patients out there. If we go and change it, it will change that status applied out. That makes sense. So yeah, it should apply to all of those charts out there.
Okay. And then regarding the dashboard, we should see those changes the next time it runs, like after midnight?
Yeah. So I mean, if you're looking on the physician's clinic, it should be reflected the next day. And for you as well, you know, that's also a good reason, you know, if they share, then you're going to be able to see that from your PSP viewer dashboard.
Hi, Pierce. It's Cassandra from BCH. I'm just sorry, I'm a little bit unclear as to what Brian's talking about. Is that like a batching process, or could you clarify?
Yeah, so I would suppose it's similar to a batching process. What I guess how I'd phrase this is when you have a patient out there, they get applied with a status. And this is where we manage how those statuses are set up. So this is more an administrative function. If you came to this place and said, well, let's consider, I don't know, select a different one, anyone, changing that to inactive, okay, and I save it, that's actually going to change how that is determined on any patient that has this status. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Thanks for clarifying. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. What I will show you, though, is there is a batch function in Wolf that may be kind of along the lines of what you're thinking about. And just for the sake of our project, I'll demonstrate it through the dashboard. So let's consider, maybe I'll go to the primary dashboard. And let's use one of these consider tiles, right? So again, just as a refresher, this is showing us for this physician how many patients meet these consider searches. So trying to help us identify patients out there that could be documented with a condition, but we haven't applied that correct ICD-9 or equivalent SNOMED code. Clicking on this is going to generate my patient list. Okay, so these are all the patients that we've documented as text hypertension, but I haven't gone through the process of adding it as an active problem, okay? So, I mean, we could double click on that. We could quality check the chart, and if the physician decides, yes, we want to apply that as a problem, we could do that manually. And maybe I'll just show you here, right in the patient chart, under current history, there's problems, so that's what we're looking for. Okay, and I click add new problem. And right up here, I could just go ahead and type in the ICD-9, or you can run a search. Okay. Right, and I could add it in here. So that's how we do the manual process. But let's say we had a long list and the physician had said, yeah, all of them should be applied with an active problem list of hypertension. From our actual dashboard window, there's a batching function. So this may be what you were alluding to. So under selection, you can actually assign, pardon me, I'm squinting at my screen here, add to problem list. Yeah, and it's telling me I did something wrong. So you have to select which patients you'd like to apply this on. You can select all or deselect all. And then to do that batch function, we want to select add to problem list. And I'm not sure what's happening here. Okay, and we can actually search for that. Right, and you can go ahead and there we applied it. The same applies for patient status too. So while I applied a problem list there, if you're in a situation where you need to apply or change a status, you can do that. So again, I'm just squinting on my screen here, update patient status. And again, you could select any status that you have in your clinic. Maybe that was a little more information than you needed, but thought I'd share.
No, that's great. Thanks, Pierce.
I see our time here. We're kind of cutting down to the last couple of minutes. Was there any other functionality questions or pieces that anyone's curious about?
Hi, Pierce Costa from VCH here.
Hi, Costa.
I was looking at the trending functions of the dashboard with the physician the other day, and we were having trouble kind of, I guess, seeing the value for him and understanding what was that showing us, and how is it different than the pie chart?
Yeah.
You get into that a little?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Let me just take diabetes as an example here. So I'm going to maximize it first just so we can see it a little bit better. And I don't know what my demo environment trending data looks like. Hopefully it's a little bit more useful to us. Okay, yeah, my demo environment may not be as valuable. But maybe what I'll show you first is we're seeing two things. We're seeing my data as a physician, okay, and we're also, this dotted line is showing me the physician aggregate. Right, so this is showing me all the other physicians that are sharing as a average. Okay, so when I click on this trend, and let me head back just so we're sure on what we're looking at. We're looking at these two segments. All of our diabetic patients, okay, all of those active patients assigned to me that have the 250 code in the problem list versus all the remaining patients that I have. Okay, so when I trend, you're going to see both of these segments. What you may find, some physicians will say, well, maybe looking at patients who don't have the condition may not be as relevant. Maybe they just want to see what is the trend of this condition. So you can always right-click and show trend. that actually just excludes the other piece. So, I mean, in my example here, you're not going to see a lot of change. But if we've done some panel work, or we've, updated your active patient population, we've gone through the work of documenting some additional diabetic patients, maybe we've got a number of patients with high A1Cs, you're going to see over time the change in number, right? So for some doctors, it's going to be a more drastic change, and you can actually see the history of work that you've accomplished.
Hey,
and as you, yeah, absolutely.
When you blow it out in this view, do we lose the ability to see the trend of aggregate physician data?
No, we don't. And so what I had done there is it's a shortcut to look at this one segment, right-click on it, and hit Show Trend. But if I just trend it all, okay, there are right-click options in here. So it may be relevant to see, what that average is of everybody else that's participating. And if I right-click, you can pull in and hide other pieces. So, maybe I want to hide other patients. I just want to look at
okay, that's
our diabetic.
Cool. I didn't know about that right-click menu there. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem. And over time, I mean, again, I apologize that my example here probably isn't as relevant, but over time, you can even, zoom in, right, and take a closer look at what happened, if you have a big change. And so that's different than just seeing our pie graph, which is just giving us the most recent, right, as of date. Mm-hmm. From your RST view, it's a little bit different because you can compare your providers and actually see how things are coming along. I realize we're past time, but I can make sure to put that in our next session and just give a demo of that.
Thanks, Pierce. That's great. So, yeah, guys, we are over just a couple minutes over time, and I want to be respectful. I know everyone has busy days. So I think we'll probably wrap it up there for questions, but if there's anything pressing that we didn't get to, please email myself and Pierce after this, and we'll make sure we get back to you. Otherwise, I'll circulate the recording, and we'll update the documentation, as Pierce mentioned. Thanks for doing that, Pierce. And send that back out to you, and we'll look forward to connecting again in 2 weeks' time. So thanks very much for your time today. I hope it was valuable. As always, if you have suggestions about agenda items or how we're using this time, please get in touch. And I hope you have a great day, and I hope you stay dry. For those of you in Vancouver, raining cats and dogs here. So hope you have a nice dry day and maybe sunny days in other parts of the province.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.